I'm going to just expand on what Dr. Ramulu talked about and talk about tools for education. And real honestly, I think you don't have to be a professor at a university to be a teacher. We all teach. We teach our patients, we teach our technicians, and I think some of the tools that we're talking about that we use for teaching residents, you can use for other purposes. I have no conflicts. I will talk about a website of mine and a book of mine, but almost amazingly, I get no income from either of these. You know, I realized a long time ago that if you left me alone with residents, I always talked about the same thing. I talked about gonioscopy and genetics, pigmentary glaucoma, but never ever would I talk about aqueous humor dynamics or cholinergic agonists or carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. And I realized that as I got to the end of the rotation, sometimes there were big gaps in their knowledge, and it wasn't entirely their fault. So I developed, as Pradeep said, a checklist. And the idea of the checklist is that at one time in their residency, so we have the residents 3 times for 10 weeks at a time, they need to have sat down with one of the faculty and convinced us that they know everything about glaucoma. And it's not just me, it's my partners as well. So this has undergone a lot of variations and now 50 items on the checklist. And this is what our teaching room looks like at the University of Iowa. On the left, you see the second-year resident and the first-year resident's checklist. So what they'll do is explain to us everything that they need to know about aniridia, and we'll sign them off and prove to the world that they know about aniridia. On a whiteboard at the end of the room, the senior-most resident will write for each day what he or she wants to talk about. So on my Tuesday clinic, we're going to talk about perimetry principles, and I'm not going to lecture them. As Pradeep said, they're going to tell me and interact with me about what they know about perimetry. We also make sure, as part of this checklist, that they know how to do pressures. Some people never learn how to do pressures, so they need to have those confirmed by one of our technicians or fellow or us. And they have to do a visual field so that they don't send that patient who can't do Snellen and acuity off to do a Humphrey visual field. They have to perform a field just to see what it's like, and then they have to show one of us that they can do gonioscopy. So the curriculum is this checklist, and then I took a book that I wrote in 2000 called The Requisites of Ophthalmology Glaucoma, and then this incredibly ridiculous photo collection that I have, and I merged them together to form this glaucoma curriculum, which is on the web, and I know that the Aravind folks use this, and more recently it's available as an iBook. The advantage of these kinds of technologies is that you can have lots of illustrations. You don't have to have, oh, the most amazing ice syndrome I ever saw in my life. No one's ever going to miss that. They're going to miss the most subtle ice syndrome. So I have 8 times as many illustrations as the BCSC book, but I also have 97 movies, which you can't put obviously in a book. The other thing that I've tried to do is get rid of giant tables, things where people have to memorize stuff. When I was a resident, I felt I had to know every word that was in the basic science book that our academy publishes, and I would have memorized this table, and it would have caused me physical damage to do that. And also no super rare diseases. So as I was looking at this, is a table from the BCSC book in the glaucoma section, and this is differential diagnosis of diseases associated with primary congenital glaucoma. There's Michael's syndrome, so I'd never heard of Michael's syndrome, so I looked it up, and the most recent reference was to the 11th case of Michael's syndrome ever reported in the world, and the first case in India. So I'm thinking my resident doesn't need to know that. They don't need to memorize Michael's syndrome, and hopefully no one will ever test them on that, because there's just too much to learn. In 1950, the doubling time of knowledge was 50 years. In 2020, it's projected to be 73 days. So we can't expect people to memorize trivia. And we also recognize that our residents and fellows have all of the world's knowledge in their hand. So if they want to find out what Michael's syndrome is, they just go to PubMed or Google. So our commitment, I think Dr. Ramulu and I are on the same page is to teach people what's actually important, not everything. You can't learn everything in 2017. There's too much to learn. And that's the concept behind this. And so I've learned a lot from doing this. It's become a weird hobby for me. And I think there are three critical tools I just like to share. One is the flipped classroom, and I'm not going to talk more about that, but I think this is an incredibly important piece of education. Not standing at a podium like this talking to residents for 60 minutes. Their attention span is 7 minutes, and that's been shown. There's a program called Camtasia that I'd like for you to, if you have to teach, to try. If you're going to do this flipped classroom, you have to have materials. So you can send them home with a book. There's a great glaucoma book from Aravind, but they can go to my website and look at my lectures, or you can make your own. But Camtasia is, for me, was transformational. It's I use it on the Mac, but also available for the PC. And basically, it records whatever's on your computer screen, or you can select a window of your computer screen. And then you can easily edit this or voice it over, and it saves it as a file that you can edit. So if you realize that you swore while you're talking over your slides, you can go back and cut that out and replace it with something else, or put in a better illustration. And then it exports it as an MP4 file, a file that you can just stick in a PowerPoint or on the web. So this is a Fuchs heterochromic iridocyclitis. You can have a picture that shows those veins. You can have a picture that shows that they are fragile. But as a visual learner, it's much more meaningful for me to see this bleed. So this is a phaco case one of my former fellows is doing. And every time the intraocular pressure goes down, the iris bleeds. And to me, as a learner, I would remember this. I wouldn't remember it if it was just in a line of text. I might remember it if it's a picture, but I would remember this movie. Besides web-based teaching, you can record anything. So if you need to teach your technicians how to check intraocular pressure, you could show them this black and white sketch, or you can show them what it looks like when you're doing pressure at a slit lamp with a Goldman applanation tonometer. It's truly amazing technology. And this is what it looks like when you're in there. So this is just a lecture I was working on. You can just cut and paste and put things, move things around, move them from the back to the front, remove all the audio and redictate. It's really easy. The other technology is iBooks Author. So I'm a Mac person, and so this is something that's really easy for me, and we're trying to get some of the stuff that we can develop with this so that it's available on other platforms. So this is a free resource. You can download the program for free from Apple, very easy to use. You can save a book to be published and charge for it, and I've elected to make this free. So by making my book free, they put it on the web for free, and it's available to you for free. And this is just what this looks like if I'm going to make an iBook. I just pick a format here, and I just paste in some text from Word or wherever you do the text, and it formats it just like that. It did that automatically. I didn't do anything to it. If I want to put a picture in, I just put a little photo gallery there and just drag images into it. This is just Hobstria, and then I just drag it wherever it makes sense. I'm going to put thumbnails on there so you can have more than one picture in a panel, and I just drag it to wherever it needs to go. It's hard to describe how easy this is. I mean, there certainly is a little bit of a learning curve, but it's a pretty short curve. And so this is what this looks like. This is a chapter on pigment dispersion, pigmentary glaucoma. Again, it's very short on text, high on images, so not one Krukenberg spindle, but really the whole range of Krukenberg spindles. You can have movies, and you can watch the movies full screen. So this is pigmentary with incredible backbowing and a shea stripe. And the images, if you want to, you can make them full screen also. So these are just a bunch of shea stripes and pigmentary glaucoma. You don't need an index because you just search. It allows you to link to websites. You can highlight, you can take notes and create study cards. So if I want to find the double hump sign, I just start to type double hump, and it'll give me the definition that it drags out of my book. But if that's not enough, I just click on it, and it will take me to the plateau iris section of my book. If there's a website, I just click on it, and it takes me to my... And then for the residents, as they're learning, they can highlight things that are interesting to them, and it will give them a study guide of just what they've highlighted. So I go to my study notes here, and if it's the day before the OCAP exam or whatever exam they're studying for here in India, you can make study cards for them to quiz themselves. So it's an amazing, amazing technology. It will probably continue to get better. So both technologies are easy to update. They're virtual, so you can just release a new version anytime you want to. So in summary, there's some really great tools out there to help us teach about glaucoma, and I appreciate your time and staying to the bitter end. Thanks so much.